The fuck?
Don't worry about it. It's
Yeah.
my boy. It's my boy Craig.
Fuck
Who
is
the
this
fuck
guy?
is Craig? I never
Hey,
seen this quote in my fucking life.
You keep my producer's name out your fucking mouth.
Recording.
Hey, Craig, who do you know here?
Me. Like my friends always say, you always have to do with your first round pick, Marvin Bagley. Duke.
It could have been so simple. It could have been so simple.
That's so boring, though. Who wants simple?
It could have been worse. I mean, just the perfect reward for sucking so much.
We're getting old, fellas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back in my day.
These lily-dally cell phones jigging the things.
I remember Johnathan with rectangular glasses.
I remember when the national anthem was sung correctly.
We should have honor in our anthem.
I remember there was no time limit on these home run derby. We got to see as many as we wanted.
If they could wait, they'd do it.
I remember in the home run derby where steroids were allowed. Now that was American baseball.
I remember when a fun all-star game directly impacted home field advantage for the World Series.
Damn. Oh, how times have changed.
Did it just so happen that All-Star Game was in Arlington this year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they planned it a couple of years in advance.
I planned.
That'd be a cool concept if winner of the World Series could get the All-Star Game or something.
Ah. Yeah,
That
but
would be-
then you never want a scenario when fucking Oakland wins it and they're like, all right, everyone gets to go to Oakland.
What the
Well,
hell is this Coliseum?
Oakland would have to put their shit together to win a World Series, so then
Yeah.
then things would probably be a little better on the home front.
Is
Yeah.
this stadium sanitary?
There's only 3 hotels in the fucking area. Where are we going to? They got a bunch of homeless camps.
But at the same time, the All-Star game being at places that or teams that won back-to-back World Series.
Yeah, and for the 5th straight time, we're in New York,
I guess
the mecca of All-Star games.
Jonas and Oakland. I mean Sacramento. They shut up at me.
Yeah. The Sacramento A's win the World Series. You're going to AAA, boys.
You think the River Cats or the A's will have more attendance at that stadium?
That you know what? That's
River
a
Cats.
really good question. If they don't, I mean, I'm telling you right now, River Cats Stadium holds maybe 18,000.
I thought it was 10.
You might be right. I think it's if they can't sell that fucking thing out.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, Oakland's still gonna play good teams, so people are gonna come see their favorite players, even if
They're just even closer.
yeah.
I cannot imagine. Let's see.
Are there suites in that stadium?
There are.
Oh.
Yeah.
There
How many
are
actually?
actually. There's 5.
I've been to Shooter Health Park. As a kid, I went there when it was Raleigh Field, when the A's were, it was the minor league team for the A's. It's a really nice park.
It looks
It's got
nice.
It's got a cool skyline of the
I mean,
Golden Gate Bridge. Or not the Golden
anything's
Gate
better
Bridge,
than
not the
Oakland.
Bridge.
I was gonna say, relatively speaking, though, your
Yeah,
your frame of reference is Oakland Coliseum.
Hey, Oakland Coliseum was a fine ballpark before Mount Davis was put up. Thanks, Al Davis.
Before Lyndon B. Johnson was president, it was awesome.
Instead of this beautiful mountainous skyline, we put a bunch of fucking seats right in the middle that no one's going to be on. And then we just put banners over those seats.
Only thing cool about it was that it was the only dirt football field.
That was cool.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
iconic.
It was just, August, September football. And you just get to see the dirt.
Just dirt all over the jerseys.
Just running in the dirt. Just boys being boys, playing in the dirt.
I would go to games and you would see just Raiders stuff still hooked on to the thing. You're like, they forgot to put that down.
They ain't got the money to take it down.
Yeah, who are they going to pay
to
to?
leave it up.
We'll get it next time.
Stuff.
You're a loyal fan, Jonas. I mean, I know you've like kind of gone to the Reds, but
I tried this year, and I respect the Reds, and I will follow the Reds. But man, it felt different this year. Like I'm like I still love the Ace.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, owners and fans. It is I, Johnathan, the Cutoff Man Silva, back to you live and in recording on this beautiful, beautiful Tuesday afternoon in the middle of the All-Star break before the All-Star game tonight. Joining me is the man, the myth, the legend, formerly known as Jeff. Kidding. Jonas H.
Yeah, it's an honor. It's an absolute privilege to be here. I've been waiting all season, knocking at the door just to try to at least be a fly in the wall of one of these sessions. So I'm just glad I get to be on here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I wanted you to be on the podcast for a long time, and I didn't want to do it on a regular old week. I said it should be something kind of big that happens during the season, and I can't think anything bigger than the All-Star break to bring you in on talk about the first half of the season with you and your team and everything else going around the league.
I say you picked a perfect time.
Yeah, we were going to record yesterday, and I was like, I don't want to edit while the home run derby is going, so let's just kick it to today. But and what a home run derby it was!
Yeah, I wouldn't want to record it either.
One of the better home run derbies we've had this year, but we'll talk about that later. I kind of just want to do a little introduction with you. Your team name, John Fisher's Ruptured Balls, is what you decided on, you and staff.
Yeah, no, totally. The moment I started into this league, I had to get a jab in John Fisher. I believe I tried to do busted ball sack and another nickname that I don't think was allowed on fan tracks. So I just did ruptured balls, and I figured no better way to honor the worst human on the planet than a name like that.
Now, is this a personal grudge, or is this just speaking from the heart?
This is a city grudge, I would say.
A city. Okay.
We hold and where else am I going to talk about Oakland A baseball anywhere in this league? So I gotta take advantage of it. A 5-year relocation stretch. They've done countless cities to try to at least stay in Oakland. He never did it. They just said fuck it and was like, I'm dipping. A notoriously cheap owner, never keeps his stars. I mean, how many stars in Oakland have been drafted or have come to Oakland and then just left?
Too many. Most recent, Marcus Semien, now World Series champion.
Matt Chapman, Giant. Matt Olson, Brave. Sean Murphy, Brave. Sean Manaea, Sonny Gray, Chris Bassett, Frankie Montas. You name it, we've given them.
For nothing in return most of the time.
A bag of potato chips and a busted pill of Ozempic.
It's been a rough go for your personal idolized team, the Oakland A's. But your fantasy team, we'll go back way back when we first started on the so-called ESPN days before we jumped to Fantrax. We did our draft on ESPN. And if you don't mind, we're going to go through your first 4 rounds, as I've done with other owners, to kind of talk about what you were thinking and kind of like the why and reason of picking these players. And in the first round, your first pick being Matt Olson, first baseman of the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, me and my staff, we were in the draft room, and we had a few names on our board that we wanted to take. I know Kyle Tucker was still there, and we were thinking about getting him first round. But it was the sentiment. It was me seeing Matt Olson not only just in Oakland but in Nashville when he played in AAA Nashville Sounds. We got to see him a couple of games, and I mean he's just a phenomenal player. One of the most consistent home run hitters, power guys. His swing. All the analytics nerds will bust a nut over his launch angle and the power that he brings. So it seemed like a no brainer, at least in our statistics department.
Mhm.
What has happened since is nothing short
Yeah,
of
those
disaster.
those analytic nerds would be looking at that pick in the first round, first player on the team, and look at the numbers at the halfway point of the season and go, my oh my, what a terrible pick that was. He has 155 fantasy points on the year, only averaging 1.6 points a game. And the guy's only batting a 229 average with a 714 OPS. I mean, this is not the Matt Olson everybody knows.
No, I mean this is by far the worst season he's had. I mean, we looked at his previous numbers too. I mean, just to be sure, 3.5 a game, 2.4 in Atlanta. I figured 2.4 would be the floor. Even if he wasn't great, he could still give you stretches of dominance. 3.2 the year before that, his last year in Oakland. I mean, it seemed like a no-brainer. It seemed at the time that I just needed to get the best power hitter available, and he has disappointed me like a child would, like a child who
I
you
mean,
just saw do drugs for the first time, and it's just sad to see.
depending on how you view it, most people would be like, Matt Olson is, I mean, before this season, like would be in the middle of his prime. I mean, he's 30 years old, and he probably has another 5 years left of baseball, and this is kind of like the back end toward his prime, but still prime to where he shouldn't be some average Joe numbers that he's been putting up.
I wish he was putting average Joe numbers. It's not hitting.
And for my question for you for this, Mr. Matt Olson, is having such a bad first half of the year, what is keeping you from letting him go? Like, what's keeping him on this team?
It's a great question, Mr. Silva. And one thing we've talked to our guys about, not only on the roster but also within the organization, is we don't have a tendency to let our guys go early. I've seen it before where we drop people and the very next week they'll just become their old selves again and just play great for whoever they've found a new home on. And in Matt Olson's instance, I mean, we've had a couple of trade calls for him. We've had people inquire on the value that he has, and it's such a tough situation because Matt Olson right now is not worth much. He's just not. So what I would get in return for him, it just wouldn't move my team any further. So I like the prospect of the old Matt Olson coming back, raking the second half, kind of saving his season. Doesn't need to put up a great total points per game, but I mean, these next couple of months, he's got to be huge for us. I mean, he's got to drop 2.5 a game at least. We're missing that in our lineup. The infield has been tragic, and he is, culprit number one in that, if I'm being honest. But we love him. We love him here. He's
okay.
He's a good guy. It's tough to let him go when we know what he can bring to a team and the value that he does. So I think it's more of a fear of the guy coming back into form as soon as we drop him.
So we have the stipulation in our league to where the first few rounds, the player was picked very early rounds, like top 10 picks, they get put back into the pool for next year's draft. Do you see yourself in the near future, if he's available, picking up Matt Olson again in the next year, or is that just kind of to be determined on this year? Is this first half you feel like a fluke on what he really brings and worth for his name and to the club?
I'd say it's a fluke. I mean, there's more times than not when he's just been consistently a top two first baseman in the league. So this season is unprecedented in all the wrong areas for him. I believe it's the first 5 rounds where you can't keep your players, so he does go back into the pool. I'll say this: if he's there 6, 7, 8, in those rounds, I'm not going to say no to him. I've seen what he can do. He bounces back after bad years in big ways, and so we're always going to be with him in our heart. And
we love to see that. To see that.
He's Pookie Bear to us, and so it makes it worse that we've had such an abysmal first half. We're really hoping he turns it around though in the second half, kind of jumpstart what's been a lackluster offense these past couple of weeks.
Okay. Much hope for the fan and club favorite, it seems. But we're going to go on to your second round pick. Your second round, you chose Kyle Tucker, right fielder for Houston Astros. He has 222 points on the year, averaging 3.7 a game. His hitting, he's averaging a 266 batting average with a 979 OPS and 19 home runs on the year with 40 ribbies. Not too shabby for a number 2 pick.
No, not at all. We were surprised when Kyle Tucker became available on our board. It was between Tucker and Olsen for that first round pick. I think a lot of people started to go pitcher pretty early there, starting with Strider. And we just felt that this guy was too good to pass up, even for a pitcher. What he brings to the team, what he's done these past couple of seasons. Houston is a perennial organization where they just bring up guys and they just rake. He's still our 6th leading guy in fantasy points, and he hasn't played since June 3rd. So
he had that shin injury. Any reports on that? How are the trainers looking at him in the clubhouse?
He played catch on the field this past Thursday, and that was the first time he'd done any sort of baseball activity. So just throwing with his old pop, I guess, and catching balls. And I'd never seen a 10-day IL last for 2 months. We're trying to just ease his way back in there, make room for him. Our outfielders have been, I'd say they've been solid more or less for what we've been able to replace him with. But I'd say overall as a pick, we did a fantastic job there. I think we were very surprised he was still there. And
I wouldn't say it's a bad thing that he's missing the wear and tear of the dog days of summer. If you're asking me, if he can dodge the summer activities and just be ready for the second half of the season, I think he's up for some big moments, big games, and kind of being the clutch player you need when he comes back in August.
Yeah, and his team's not even in a comfortable spot for the Astros. So to see them really gonna have to be utilizing him and need him these past couple months or these next couple of months in order to kind of get into that playoff picture. I don't think there will be any rest for him or any concern that he might miss the last couple of weeks just to prep him for postseason play.
Now, I've heard a couple rumors of Tucker being inquired in here and there. I don't think they were officially sent, but people were asking about him. Is he a name that you are willing to give out, like to do big trades with, or do you think he's here for the season?
He's untouchable for us, pretty much since the get-go. There's been a couple of talks, no official trades for sure. They've inquired about his services, and we've just straight up shot him down. He's just worth way more to us than he could be to any of them, and the return we would get. It'd be a very tough pill to swallow to see who at the time was top 3 hitter, top 3 player in baseball. Walk away from the team. It's something that we didn't even think about.
Well, there you have it, folks. If any owners out there listening, untouchable. Don't even think about it. But in your round 3, you chose Jose Ramirez, third baseman for the Cleveland Guardians. He's got 333 points on the year with a 271 batting average, an 842 OPS with 23 home runs and 77 RBIs. And those 23 home runs earned him a spot this week in the home run derby.
Yeah, again, another guy that we were very surprised to see still available. And this was a late third round pick because we had pick number 7. And we just, there was either a pitcher that we could have taken or it was this guy. And that was a tough thing that we had in our draft room, where if we really wanted to commit to the hitters and say this is a hitting team with top end talent, and then we would figure out the pitching situation from there. It's just another guy where I couldn't say no to him. I knew he wouldn't be there, later on in the rounds, and we love him. We love Jose. He's Mr. Consistent. I mean, if you look at his last several seasons, he hasn't had below 3 points a game in fantasy since 2016.
Raking.
So he's going 8 years now, where this man is always just giving you 3 points a game. So we needed that. We needed the best player available. So we went with that, and we were very happy with ourselves.
Now, when you drafted him, was he the surefire captain of your said team, your fantasy team, or would you consider someone else on the team as captain? Because I feel personally that he probably is the captain of the team. I know you have Bryce Harper, but he's more the character guy. Jose Ramirez is your team looks up to him. He's like, you need points, Jose's there, right?
I think he's definitely made his case to be the captain of the team. I think when we originally drafted, we wanted one of the big 3 hitters to step up and just be a consistent guy like that. And I would have said Kyle Tucker had you given me that question about a few weeks ago, just because he started off hot and really never cooled down since. But I'd say now and going into the second half, there's a big reason why Jose is the best hitter on our team right now, and he is leading this team to what they can do going into the second half. So I'd agree with you. I'd say Jose has definitely earned his C on his jersey.
That is a beautiful thing to see, and I think he for sure deserved it in my viewpoint. And last but not least, for your 4th round, because we're not going to go too far in every draft pick you made, but this 4th round, you went away from batters and you chose a pitcher by the name of Pablo Lopez, a Minnesota Twin. 194 points on the year, 10 points a game. The numbers aren't pretty. The ERA of 5.1 in 19 games played. He has 121 strikeouts, 100 hits, and 104 innings pitched. Yikes! The scouts. What was the thought process on this pick here in round 4?
So to be honest, we fired the man who made that selection. We were later notified that while he did make that selection, he was under the influence of narcotics.
Oh my goodness!
We at the time we were going to let him go through it and kind of just see how this pick transpired, and we needed a big time first pitcher. We needed someone to lead this team, and even at the time, I'll admit Pablo Lopez was an intriguing prospect. I mean, he's a 100+ strikeout guy. The ERA is never the prettiest. I think last season was about a 3.8 ERA. But if the guy can get through innings, strike out 8 people, and just give you quality starts, I think that's someone who gives you 13, 14 points, fantasy points a game. And so we saw him. We saw the age. I mean, he's only 28 years old. This should be his prime year. And we are disappointed in his lack of numbers that he has given us. We've we haven't really fielded any calls for him. I think that's understandable. But again, another case where we just feel like we can't drop him. We can't lose a roster spot, especially with with what little is left on the waiver wire. He if he doesn't show up, then it won't be much different than what he's done now. But if he does kind of turn it around, get a good second half, then him and Matt Olson, it'd be huge for our team. So patience is key. And
Okay.
if we really want to see him do better, we'll just drop him, and then he'll start, doing great things. Of course, they do.
So, has it ever occurred to you, or like a thought popped into your head to maybe drop a player and then pick him back up, like leave him a day if he's still there, and then pick him back up after that day to see if they kind of turn it around, give him that little scare of not being on a team?
It's definitely a thought that's crossed my head of kind of flipping two players that have been disappointing, and then just every day, just adding and dropping, adding and dropping. Maybe they'll figure it out then, but it's a risky strategy. I think a lot of the teams around the league know that when a guy gets dropped from my team, there's a chance he comes back and comes back with a vengeance. I think a lot of the times they want revenge against me, not necessarily to prove me wrong for my benefit, but just to go told you so. And we don't want that. We're very strict with who we want to give up. We love who we have. It's what makes the downtrends that much more hurtful.
Yeah, I mean, it seems kind of like a pattern here. I mean, could this be a front office locker room kind of beef going on? Because I mean, you tell us now that we love our players, but whenever the players you do drop leave, like you said, they come back with a vengeance. Like most recently, you dropped Langford, who I inquired on trading for early in the season, very early, and I saw you dropped. I said, okay, let me pick him back up. And when I did pick him up, he's been tearing it up. He hit for a cycle. He's hitting home runs. Finally, he's stealing bases, getting the extra bases on hits. Is this like a miscommunication, you think, in the clubhouse? What do you think the problem could be?
It's nightmare fuel for us for sure. It's something we don't ever want to see, is giving up on a guy and then them doing what we hoped they would do on another team. And I think in his instance, it was tough. We never gave him much starting opportunities. He was riding the bench most of the time he was with us. We felt we had a really good 3 to 4 outfield core, and he was the guy that was going to come up as the season progressed. I think we got impatient with him. I think we never really saw much upside. He'd get 7-8 game hit streaks, but they were all singles, and he'd strike out twice, and you'd wonder if this guy was ever going to show up with his bat. So I think that was a decision at the time. We never really thought too much of it. He was one of the lower level players in our clubhouse, but to your point as a whole, I think the players see it, and when they're struggling, they kind of, we don't want them to feel like they hope that we trade them or let them go so that they can really start hitting. We want them to produce now, and then take us to the promised land.
And speaking of that promised land, we have reached the All-Star break, which is about halfway through the season, typically, most of the times, all the time. And you're sitting at third place out of 4 in the East, Eastern Conference. You're 8-8, 4 games back from first, and on the year, you're about at 4,500 points, fantasy points on the season. For the 8-8 season, it's kind of been up and down, a little roller coaster from my viewpoint. Is it, you think, just a tougher competition in the East, or or is it just you think your team's in a slump at the moment? You think as an owner and coach and what you've seen, they could be even better than what they are now?
It's an interesting question. I think our division is very top heavy. If you look at the two teams ahead of us, Big D has got arguably one of the most complete lineups in the entire league. Just his hitting, from his hitting core to his top five guys. Now that he's got a few of his players back, he's really reloaded as the season's gone on, and that's someone to that's never easy to play. And then, of course, you got the best team in the league. Coach needs Sagandi's Republic, and they've just been able to figure it out week in, week out. They've gotten a lot of their boys to put up solid numbers. Probably the most active GM in the waiver wire, and the results show. So that's who we had to play those last 2 weeks. And even though we didn't necessarily expect wins in both, I did not expect to have the lowest score during both.
198 points.
It's rough
this last week.
It makes it even tougher to go to the waiver wire and pick up pitchers when you don't even know if just holding still and doing nothing is better than adding a guy. So it's very difficult to catch up to those guys, but we have a lot of confidence in securing that fourth spot in the playoffs, and that's kind of what we're fighting for right now. It's 1 week at a time. You got to think we started the season off 1-3, 1-4. I think we were 1-4 after 5 games, and we ended up climbing all the way to 8-6 before our losing streak. So we had felt really comfortable before this slump about where our team was. But I think it's like you said, I think it's a slump that we're hitting right now, and we just got to get through it.
Well, luckily we kind of hit the All-Star break, so most players and coaches would have a mental reset and a physical reset, some rest and time with the family. For the second half of the season, does your team take a different approach, or do you stay the course?
So we told our guys this going into the All-Star break. Everyone who's dominated and outperformed, you know who you are, and it's going to be really tough to give someone like that up. Mainly a person like Carlos Correa, or as you mentioned earlier, Jose Ramirez and Kyle Tucker. Those guys, they're going to require a lot, and probably would be more important to our team and our stretch. But for the rest of them, all offers are, Bryce Harper included in that other stretch, but all offers are potentially open. We just made a trade earlier in the day for Nestor Cortez. He's the top 75 pitcher in fantasy points. Had a rough couple of starts, but we were excited to bring him on the team, kind of shore up that pitching. And it's not so much the hitting that we're entirely worried about from the core. It's really this depth or lack thereof of pitching, where you look at the guys that were supposed to pop out, and they just haven't.
Now, would this be a confidence thing, a coaching thing, or is it just unfortunate matchups that they've been going up against teams that happen to be hot at the time or start their hitting streak at the time?
I would have put a little bit on the third one you said, which was just facing teams at the wrong time. But when you're the lowest scoring team for consecutive weeks, it doesn't matter who you play, you lose. So right. We've got to work on ourselves before we start looking at other teams and seeing what they've got and how they perform against us. And I just think not a lot of our guys, when it comes to game day, these past 2 weeks have really been in the zone. I think they've kind of seen what our performance has been, and it's kind of slumped them as a whole. So it's going to be a little bit of the confidence, and it's going to be a little bit of the coaching. I think we got to do a better job on settling our guys down, making sure that we take it one game at a time, and we still got 2 months of baseball left, and you're still in the playoffs. There are games. These games still mean something.
Yes, definitely in the hunt for that fourth spot. And speaking of your coaches making decisions and looking inwards towards your teams, even another transaction you made today, dropping Bo Bichette on his injury, and more of on his season performance, I would say, having only 118 points on the year. Was he just not cutting it up for you, not up to the standard you set up for the team?
Yeah, I mean, when you're putting up less points than one of the worst versions of Matt Olson, that says a lot. If I'm being honest, we hadn't really been on speaking terms these past couple of weeks.
Ooh.
It was tough to move him away from the starting shortstop position. We acquired him in a trade earlier in the year, which included Marcell Ozuna and Merrill Kelly. And we thought he would be a perfect replacement for Ketel Marte, and it just has not been that. And on one hand, where we do keep the guys like Olson, and we got faith in those guys, Bichette is just someone who we felt, with injuries and how he's performed, not only just as an individual, but as the Blue Jays lineup as a whole, it just doesn't. The writing was on the wall there, and we didn't. We couldn't afford keeping that many players to bank on a good second half when there's other opportunities out there. And with that being said, of course, I imagine Bo Bichette will drop 3 points a game this next upcoming month. Like that.
I mean, yeah, he's available for anybody to take him or willing to take that risk on Mr. Bichette.
He's good again, guys. I let him go.
He's good again. But another transactions you've made over this first half of the season, if I read this correctly, Suzuki for Correa, kind of a big win for you in that exchange there.
Yeah, we liked Suzuki a lot, but at the time, our outfielding depth was to a point where we couldn't even keep him or use him on a day-to-day lineup. Suzuki is, still a solid, consistent player. The 14-day stretch, he's averaged 3.5 points a game. So it's not to say that we don't miss him, because he would have been a valuable piece to us right now. But I mean, especially on this infield. I mean, you look at Carlos Correa averaging, almost 4 points this past month. Was on an insane hit streak. Is still consistently knocking down hits. One of the great turnarounds that a player's had. And we were just extremely lucky that we were able to grab him. For Suzuki, I think, at the end of the day, there's no clear loser, as both players are productive, but I think we did come on top and getting the better player.
Oh yeah, I totally agree that you ended up winning that trade. Even if it's by a little, it's a win is a win. And as a owner myself, I'll take a win anywhere I can get it at this point of the season. And the more controversial transaction happened between the Saich family here, you and Senior Saich. Corbin, not even, before I even say the names, it was happened on May 26, 2004, when this transaction happened. A lot of uproar when you and Mr. Adam did the old Corbin Carroll and Sean Murphy for Chris Bassett and Josh Young.
The deal at the time, I remember the commissioner telling me that I fleeced my father in that deal, and then he got someone who was borderline droppable in terms of Chris Bassett, and I never saw that in him. I knew we needed to get a guy that we believed could come up and start, and pick it back up after a dreadful start. And to an extent, he's done that. He had an 18-point showing the second to last game before the All-Star break, and he's averaged a little under 2.75 fantasy points a game for the month. So as a whole, I think we're happy to have him in terms of getting that outfielder, that fourth outfielder. But I know Chris Bassett on the other end has done a pretty solid job of maintaining his performances from the past couple of years. So a deal that I can't even say that I entirely won, mainly because the other player, Sean Murphy, we've really relied on him to come in as our primary
Right.
catcher, and it's been nothing but disappointment on that end. And we were really excited for Josh Young and his arrival post IL, and it was a tough pill to swallow on that end. But I think looking back, I would do that trade again.
Wow. Big words, big commitment there. Because, I mean, Josh Young being on the IL all year, basically, after hurting his thumb again, he could come back and just tear the league apart, being part of that Rangers squad. As a personal fan of the Rangers, I'm really excited for August because we're getting so many players back from the IL. And Josh Young is one of those names to where he's got a lot of power. And with that power comes a lot of RBIs, and that's a lot of points. That's going to be brought up when he is active again.
It's what we saw when we picked him up originally, and he only played about, I think it was 6 or 7 games before he got hurt. But from what we did see, we thought we had someone that could have been a keeper, someone that we thought was going to play third base for us basically every day, and really just elevate what was already a great hitting core, and push us over the top. But yeah, after he broke his hand, he sat on the IL. We had a few more injuries come up there, and it was a situation where we needed to round out our depth and really get a catcher. At that time, the catching position was our weakest. So we stored that up, or so we thought. And getting a guy like Corbin Carroll, who, his rookie season, I believe it was his second season, he dominated. And
Right.
that was an instance of a player where we thought he would be able to turn it around, save his season, and give us his best performances on our team.
Yeah, it's that trade. A lot of backlash happened towards you and Mr. Adam. I feel like you handled it pretty well. On the angry comments from owners and fans.
Death threats, even.
Handled it well. Kept your composure. No fines were dealt because you two haven't been caught yet for the under the table dealings. I feel you guys are doing over there.
There is no there's none of that being in play. All I do is I get my dad a couple of drinks, and then we start talking.
You loosen him up a little bit. Okay, I see how you work.
Make sure he's not as tight on his players as he normally is, and then we
tough not to crack.
Yep. But even then, it's extremely it's extremely tough couple of players to let go, and it's not to say that it's totally helped us, because Sean Murphy, since he's come in and been healthy, 1.2 points a game. It's just not going to cut it.
Yeah. Outside of the fantasy teams, we're going to go to your other production ownership of the recent fallout of Ground Rule Trouble and the broadcasting team. Many fans are angry, disappointed, sad, and just flat out no hope left on the show you've created on your own. Personally, I also am very sad and miss seeing the Bums of the Week. That was my favorite segment. Seeing who sucks at baseball every week. It was always brought me a good laugh. Is Ground Rule Trouble, are they ever going to get a new backer to get the team back on its feet, or is there no hope left for the show to come back?
So it's an interesting story on how that went down. We were a homegrown production. It was about 5 to 7 people total that would work on the projects. And within the first 3 or 4 broadcasts that we had of it, we got an offer on the table to be bought out, and
Oh,
in a sense where we felt not only was it a good opportunity for an outside bias, an outside perspective to really control the league or control the program, but also for us to really focus on the more important matters like player acquisitions and making sure that we're doing what's right with our team. So we did sell the rights to Ground Rule Trouble, and they went bankrupt almost immediately.
wow.
They did not take into account the cost of production for the show. They look like great investors, and it turns out that they just used it to sell shirts on Temu of our likeness, and because of that, they ran up their expenses.
I,
Sales were low, and
I may have been one of their cells.
yeah, we appreciate you and your support of Ground Rule Trouble as as the rest of the league has done as well. But we are actually in works to secure the rights back from the initial investors that bought onto it. So it's not dead yet. It's not dead. We are working with our subsidiaries and our sister companies to secure those rights again, and make Ground Rule Trouble great again.
Will we? I think all the fans want to know. Will we see Ground Rule Trouble before the end of the year?
I can say with about 95% certainty, regardless if it's not the Ground Rule Trouble name, you will see another production of the league, and you will see hopefully multiple more episodes and editions coming into play. Right now, our plan, we are kind of foregoing the professional route in terms of the production and how it's broadcast, and we want to go for a more lenient, more NSFW type of
Oh
approach
boy.
to our show. So the next episode will be, similar layout, similar topics, but we also want to be more vocal and more truthful on things like that. And so we're hard at work on that, and we're going to make sure that it gets done.
I am so excited. Can't wait. Breaking news. They're trying to buy it back. And everyone out there, make sure to keep supporting Ground Rule Trouble. Don't lose faith. Don't lose hope.
Yeah, buy our Temu shirts.
Buy the Temu shirts.
50 pack for $4. They're made out of the bone of a sheep's hind leg. So the clothing material is very powerful, very sturdy, and it's something that I know we didn't have a say in on those shirts, but I think the more you buy, the better chance there will be of getting the funding back.
Love to hear it. And hearing it, we're getting Ground Rule Trouble back. We're getting the second half of the season underway. But in the meantime, we have this All-Star break. And in this All-Star break, many of our teams had a lot of All-Stars and not so many All-Stars. Starting with you, Mr. Jonas. You had 6 All-Stars on Mr. John Fisher's Ruptured Balls fantasy team. Jose Ramirez, Kyle Tucker, Garrett Crochet, Andres Munoz, Bryce Harper, and Robert Suarez. 6 All-Stars on your team. 6 players untouchable. 6 players forever on the team as long as they're allowed. 6 players to bring the first ever Baseball Sucks championship home. You happy? Not happy? I don't know why you wouldn't be happy. 6 All-Stars, man. Congratulations.
It's a thank you. We're very happy to and honestly we should have had a couple more. We believe that Carlos Correa, with the past month and a half that he had, we thought that he should have been an All-Star. we love the top the top heavy parts of our lineup, and I think that's what's really kind of brought us to where we are with the 8 wins, coming back down from 1-4, and really just overall having a better team than what was started out with. But on the other hand, you look at 6 All-Stars and you see the results that we've had, and something just doesn't seem to go right. Something's not clicking. So while we do love our guys in the six, we also note that 2 of them are relievers. Those 2 guys only get 36 and 38 innings pitched between the 2 of them, respectively. We're not getting a third of our All-Stars nearly as much as the other guys. So we've got some work to do, and even in some cases, if their trade value is higher than normal, we might want to take calls and see if it makes the team better. Individual accomplishments should always be celebrated, but I make sure to tell the guys that the end goal is to get a Baseball Sucks championship, work together as a team, and then that individual accomplishment will feel all the more sweet getting that done. So we're gonna be definitely making some calls across the league, seeing what we can do to get those guys some help.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, 2 relievers being there, but I mean, having all-star relievers has to give you some relief. No pun intended.
You're too good. You're too good.
So thank you. To know those guys are solidified to keep doing what they're doing, and you ain't got to worry about that position, so to speak. But across the league, we're going to go from lowest to highest, counting the All-Stars. I'm not going to name every player because I mean there's just so many names. But from the lowest to highest, we have myself, who only had 3 All-Stars, and then going to Tyler with 4, and then we have Jake, Reese, and Adam, and yourself at 6, Daniel at 8, and Gunner with 9. A record for the Baseball Sucks League at 9 All-Stars. Any surprises there? Any, you think, not surprises? I mean, the way his team's been going at it.
If there was any surprise I had that they didn't have more, I would have expected my dad, Coach Saich Jr., to have a few more in the lineup. I mean, if you look at some of his big guys, he's got a lot of players that you'd think you'd see in an All-Star game. He's got a great pitching core. His hitters, they've tended to slack back a little bit in this past month, but there's not many guys you'd look at that you wouldn't want to have on your team. So I'm a little surprised that a team like his only got 6, and not surprised at the top 2. Coach Need has got just player after player of elite talent. He's a very strict coach. If you have a bad day, he will let you know about it. He'll let the other teams know about it. He's not afraid to embarrass the guys, and in some aspects it helps them. He wants they play to prove him wrong, and in regards, or in that same breath, play for him. So you look at the infield he's got. It's very dangerous. The pitching is just as deadly. He's done a great job all around building that team, and there's not much you could say about Big D and what they've been able to put together. Not much has changed from their original lineup. I think having Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman both on the team has been huge.
Agreed.
Freddie Freeman, he picked up Ketel Marte in the deal he got from me. Even players like Rengifo, someone who's on his bench but is consistently giving you points, giving you good numbers, and so those guys we're not surprised that they've got a good haul from those top 2 teams, and it just gives us a good comparison on what we're trying to beat.
Do you think in the next coming years that anybody would be able to beat 9 All-Stars on one team at a time?
It's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of talk of wanting to expand the league to what it is, and from 8 to 10 or potentially 12. In that regard, I would say it would be next to impossible to be able to get 8 or 9 All Stars. I mean, you got to think, 9 All Stars. That's almost half your team.
Right.
And you got 21 guys in your lineup. 9 of them are good enough to be in Texas this weekend or this past weekend and this weekend. It's it's very impressive. I think if we kept an 8-team format, I would not be surprised to see someone with another similar number. But yeah, it would just only get tougher as the years go on and the league, with hopes of expansion. It'd be tough to match something like that for sure.
It also hurts me because Gunnar could have had the 10 spot for All Stars, because the one that got away, it happens to be starting in the All-Star game, Mr. Paul Skeens. A tragic story on that interaction of what happened to Skeens and the miscommunications between Gunnar and the reporters and scouts and trainers and the team itself. Do you feel, I mean, it's already passed and it's already solidified, but when it happened, do you feel Gunnar should have kept Skeens, been able to keep him? Or what's done is done? If you drop the player, you drop the player, no matter what the reports say.
He pulled a stunt similar on me with William Contreras. So it wasn't surprising when I saw the Paul Skeens news break out. It was an unfortunate situation for both teams. You never want to see a guy like that leave. Is the same with Contreras. That happened to be a different scenario where we were in the first week of Fantrax and he was adjusting his lineups. Miscommunication there for sure. And with Paul Skeens, it's unfortunately no different. Both early in May, late April, early May. On one hand, you're glad a team that's 12-4 doesn't have another pitcher that's dropping 20 points a game. But on another hand, the next worst thing would be having him on the second best team. So it really just made a two-headed monster going into this All-Star break, and it also set up controversy on how long you can keep these guys, or how long you can, or how they're eligible to be kept if they came up in the middle of the season, or things like that. I think at the end of the day, the league made the right call in just clarifying what needed to be done going further and going ahead into this league. But yeah, I mean, it went from one great team to another.
Yeah, very unfortunate circumstances. Another unfortunate circumstance, your boy Ramirez in the home run derby falling out in the second round. It was a fun derby that happened last night. Unfortunate for your guy. He was participating. First round, he looked good, looked solid with 21 home runs. But in that second round, he only able to hit 12. It was just sad. It was fun to watch, but it was just sad at the same time. I mean, if I was the owner and my guy put up that kind of number in the second round, you're like, man, come on. I know he's better than that. You think it was more of a disappointment? You're just happy to see him out there, having fun, hitting some dingers.
I was happy to see him locked in. I would constantly see him on the screen. He looked to be in the zone. He looked like he wanted to win this. Like he wanted to show people that he was deserving of being the Derby winner. That first round performance was beautiful. I think if anything to take away from it, I'm glad that he was able to perform in any round like he did. Losing to Bobby Witt is no slouch. It's nothing to be disappointed about. Bobby Witt's swing. I mean, my goodness, when he gets on a roll, he can crush those puppies second deck. I mean, he is a lights out type of player. Ramirez just got gassed. You could see it midway through that the second round where he was kind of trying to pull him a little too hard. He was hitting him in the center more so than those corners.
Yeah, I told you guys beforehand that Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas, is not a very hitter-friendly baseball field.
It is not. It definitely is not. If you stretched it even past the corners and then kind of got it to center right or center left, you needed a lot of power on those hits just to clear the fence. And I think he saw that. I think he got tired out towards the end. The bonus part I still am confused about. First round bonus, he was patient, waited for the right pitch, and in this one he took 3 of the first 4 balls he took and couldn't get him yard, and that was that. But overall, I was just happy to see not one but 2 of my boys in the lineup. I was rooting for Jose definitely more so than Mr. Ozuna. We've talked to Ozuna about our relationship in this on this team and what we're expecting, not the personality, but just the player and the numbers that he brings up. If only he could, hit the balls as good as he hits his wife, then we'd be in a much better situation. But unfortunately, didn't go that way, and I was just happy to see him out there.
Hot take over there. So tonight we have the All-Star game happening. Will you be tuning in, or is the owner and coaches going to be more focused in on preparing for that second half of the season?
We'll tune in for sure. It's always great to see some of the best players in the league go out and have fun in a game like this. It used to mean a lot more when this dictated home field advantage for the World Series and it was taken more serious. Now you're seeing pitchers not really, throw the ball hard, swing the bat too hard. You don't want to get hurt in the All-Star game and make a whole scene, especially for your team. The last thing I want is a player like Jose Ramirez or Bryce Harper, twisting an ankle or straining something that they have.
Right.
I would much rather have them, perform in the second half than this All-Star game. But we'll definitely tune in, see what it's all about. But yeah, our focus is still going to be about making this team the best it can be.
Now, I wanted personally to see the All-Star events happen in the old stadium. I don't know if you've visited Arlington's new stadium yet, but it's all air conditioned, all nice and comfortable in the current weather of
the large air fryer stadium for sure, where you boil alive inside.
Where
there.
It's currently right now 101 degrees outside Fahrenheit, and people are out there doing all-star events. So I wanted to see what the home run derby would look like in that type of heat at night. Elevated balls, players sweating like crazy. It would have been a fun watch.
It's indoor, isn't it? Is it an indoor stadium?
Yeah, the new one is. I meant for the old stadium right next door.
Oh goodness, they wouldn't have survived. Many fans would have.
Do you think that outdoor stadium would have fixed the national anthem singer his performance?
Yeah, it definitely would have gotten rid of the echo that made sure every person in that stadium could hear how awful she was. Crazy development that you broke this morning. Credit to you, Coach Silva, which was her admitting herself into rehab.
Yeah, that was wild.
I mean, look, I think the best case scenario is she realized then and there that she's got a problem. If you can't stay sober until you sing a national anthem in front of tens of thousands of people, then I would say you got a problem there. So, good on her for not only giving us history in the worst national anthem performance ever.
Fergie got beat out.
Yeah, and that's a tough bar. I mean, Fergie made people laugh in that stadium.
Yeah.
But I think in that case, it was more of an exaggeration of her anthem, doing too much when it wasn't needed. There was simply too much of alcohol in her system in this example.
You
uh,
seeing
it,
her
it,
in the video or on the broadcast, you could see and tell something was wrong with her. The way she
it's
was
something like that. I
acting.
mean, a four-time Grammy nominee, given a performance like that, I didn't know if she had just had a sore throat. I didn't know if something was going on with her medically. It never once crossed my mind, to be honest, that she was intoxicated or just not sober for that performance. It's just surprising that anyone would would have to or want to do something like that when you're performing on a big stage. So that's a problem. So she's taking care of it. She says she hears rehab is very fun. Um,
I mean,
so we'll see. We'll see how she
it's
does.
kind of like in the past month the pitching duel on who can get the most negative points, right? Because we've had a negative 20 performance, a negative 21, and negative 22. We've had a Fergie performance, and now we've had this performance. Is there one? Everything comes in threes, right? Is there going to be a even worse performance for the national anthem in the near future?
I would say this was arguably the third. Fergie was the second, but I'd say the first instance was way back in 1990 when Roseanne did it. Uh, I think that's, I guess, a better way to say it would be Mount Rushmore. She's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of awful national anthem performances.
Right.
Her, you got Fergie, you got Roseanne, and then I'd have to know or look up the fourth for that. But she's definitely not a Whitney Houston. That's for sure.
Well, we have the second half of the season coming up. First half in the books, set in stone. Is there any expectations you have for your squad in this last half, going into playoffs talks and wild card hunts and trade deadlines and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I think we're locked in on a week by week approach. We talked to the guys and the staff before they went off to Texas, and we told them, you're on a 2-game losing streak. Things look rough. It feels like you can't score, but keep in mind you've had weeks prior where you've dominated. You've had the second best score. You're in the playoffs right now at 8-8. You may not win a division, but really we're just trying to get ourselves in a position to be in the postseason. Where at that point you just need one good week. You need 2 good weeks, and you win it all. So it'll definitely be something in our minds in the second half on going on a week by week. It starts about as good as it could be against Backdoor Slider, the team I made a trade with. But even then, Backdoor Slider has won 3 of their last 4. They've really turned it around. They've made something out of what was a very rough season, to put it lightly.
Horrendous.
The horrendous is another word for sure, and they've made themselves into a respectable opponent who you ended up wanting to play, and now you're kind of wondering is this team gonna?
I mean,
Is this
having
team
your
gonna?
first game coming out of the All-Star break being a quote unquote trap game, it's going to be a testament for your squad for sure.
We wanted and that's our stretch outside of the 2 weeks where we had to play Coach Snead and Coach Stewart. It's going to be a few winnable games after that. So if we want to put ourselves in a good spot, get a few games above 500, get comfortable. I mean, we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You only got like 9 or 10 weeks left. So it's time to lock in, and we can go 7-3 during that 10-game stretch. I think that gets us in.
Yeah, and all the luck to you and yours and all of the players you will acquire and still have. Wrapping up here, any final remarks? Any comments?
Well, I guess If anyone wants, my phone is always open. I'm looking for trades. I guess I'll start. I guess I'll end it with kind of breaking news on that aspect. We've talked to our organization about what our plan is for this season, whether we want to kind of hold the fort, make sure that we're going to be still competitive for next season with the picks we have. But we ended up with a decision that we want to get rid of a higher round pick. So top 12, top 10 pick is definitely on the cards. So if anyone's looking to stash, looking to retool, rebuild for next season, we came to the conclusion that we are willing to part ways with a top 80 pick and try to win this thing.
Well, there you have it. Owners out there listening, start dialing, start cooking in the kitchen, as the kids say. Mr. Johnathan, thank you so much for joining me on this all-star break.
Thank you. Where ground rule trouble has faltered, you have stepped up. You've created a podcast entertaining for us all. Always bringing us on. I'm always happy to be on. Don't be afraid to just keep bringing me on every week, and let me just run the show at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I'll keep that in mind.
You do a fantastic job as host of the Cutoff, and we're very happy to have you, and I look forward to facing you in a couple weeks, and especially down this playoff stretch. You're only one game behind, so you're right on my rear.
Yes, thank you very much for those comments, and thank you again for joining me. And to all you out there, I'll see you on the flip flop. Peace.
Make sure to smash that like button and dingling that subscribe bar.
Bars.
Well, fucking Paul Skeens can never leave me alone. God dang.
I thought you'd like that.
You said that. I was like, man.
Come on, man.
Too soon.
Not soon enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Going from one team to another, just the first and second.
Yeah, you're like the only thing that.
How about the next worst?
Yeah.